Hi, and welcome to this series in which we'll be talking about enterprise vibe coding and Agentforce Vibes. My name is Philippe Ozil. I'm a developer advocate at Salesforce. In this series, we'll first start by going through a brief introduction to enterprise vibe coding. We'll look at the technology that supports it, and then we'll move to further episodes in which we will cover the different aspects of the features and the things you can do with Agentforce Vibes. Let's get started. So what is enterprise vibe coding? Before we go into the enterprise part of it, I just want to do a quick introduction to vibe coding. So vibe coding is a set of tools and techniques which aim to boost developer productivity. It enables all builders, whether they're pro code or low code, to produce code and ideate fast. And the way it works is that you can run natural language prompts using generative AI and a development agent, and this will let you generate code and act on a project. And what I mean by act is that you can run tools like a CLI or run commands on a project. Now, what makes vibe coding different from enterprise vibe coding is taking it a step further. With vibe coding, you work on discardable code. You don't focus too much on quality. You're mainly there to prototype things. But when you move on to enterprise vibe coding, you have to take into consideration another set of constraints. You work with an existing application or an existing infrastructure. You're working with specs. You have to prioritize architecture, reuse governance, and you work with quality in mind. So you apply testing, DevOps principles, all of these things. This really takes vibe coding one step further, and it makes you build code that is there to last and scale. Now, whether it's enterprise vibe coding or just general vibe coding, there are some limits. I want to make sure that you're aware that vibe coding is not a silver bullet, so make sure you apply responsible AI-assisted development. To do this, you need to be aware of the limits and what vibe coding is not. For example, vibe coding does not eliminate the need for development skills. You, as a developer, need to be able to judge with critical thinking the code that is being produced by the agent. You also need to collect the business requirements for your project ahead of going into vibe coding. Finally, you also want to make sure that you compose your app and your new project by knowing about the existing architecture. So you want to make sure you apply, for example, well-architected principles when you generate new projects in code. Here are some tips on how you can make the best use of vibe coding. First of all, just like any traditional software development, you want to use source control. This is perhaps even more important in this context because you're going to be generating a lot of code and fast. So you want to be able to make sure you differentiate the code that you have written manually with the code that is being generated by the agent. Then you want to review this code that is being generated to make sure that it complies with your security and performance requirements, and you want to make sure that it also has proper test coverage. Finally, as you generate more and more code faster, you want to make sure that you take into account the technical debt that could be rising very quickly. So always think about the governance and the overall org architecture when you generate code and apply vibe coding responsibly. Now that we've seen the concepts behind vibe coding, let's talk about the technologies that support it. One of the key technologies that enable us to do vibe coding is called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. MCP is a protocol launched by Anthropic back in 2024, and the purpose of this protocol is to serve as a directory of tools and resources for agents. This works with the client-server architecture, the client being on the agent side, and the server being on the tooling side. And although this looks very similar to APIs, it's not meant to replace them, and I'm going to show you why. So let's take, for example, a basic use case in which you have services which need to be called by agents. This works well when you have one agent calling one-off services by using API calls. It does force you to have API clients on the agent side, but that's fine. However, when you do this at scale, it means that you multiply the number of API clients that are on the agent side, and that's not really good because it means API client proliferation and limited interoperability between those API clients. So the solution here is to decouple this by using MCP. MCP here helps us standardize these exchanges by having an extra layer. We create MCP servers which access those APIs. So these MCP servers include API clients, and then they expose tools and resources that agents can consume. This means that agents only need MCP clients, and these are now portable and interoperable across multiple MCP servers. Finally, this is beyond the scope of this series, but I felt that it would be a good time to introduce this. When you look at it a level above, you have agent-to-agent protocol, or A2A, which helps us to do inter-agent collaboration. This completes the overall schema in which you have A2A, MCP, and APIs. A2A dealing again with inter-agent collaboration, MCP being under allowing agents to access tools and resources, and finally MCP servers abstracting the complexity of the multiple API calls to expose services. That's it in a nutshell. This is a technology that supports vibe coding. Now, for the next episodes of this series, we'll be focusing on Agentforce Vibes, and we're going to look at how this helps you turn ideas into apps, agents, and workflows. All you'll need to follow along is your imagination and prompting skills. You'll need Agentforce Vibes, which is available for free in all of our Salesforce orgs, and you'll use also the Salesforce DX MCP server that supports it. That's it for this first episode. Make sure you give us a like if you found it useful, and subscribe to our channel to get notified as we release more content like this. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode.